Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Today's edition of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable, where we're discussing, as always, the progressive development and the future of the Niger-Delta region, a region blessed with immense resources that arguably it's not been able to utilize fully. Every week, we discuss relevant topics crucial to that development, to creating a Niger-Delta we can all be proud of. And I'm certain this conversation will take us even closer to that realization. A reminder, the program is sponsored by the operator of the NNPC, SPDC, and Total Energies Active Joint Venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited, headquartered in Port Harcourt, and I'm Adedayo Ilushakin. On today's edition of Canvas, our topic is Shell transforming homeless street boys to tech pioneers. There's a home, Badamia Home. It serves as a sanctuary dedicated to the rescue, feeding, and education of street boys. These boys have been faced with immense challenges, having been homeless and lacking access to formal education. However, their lives took an extraordinary turn when SPDC and NNPC Limited partnered with the Offshore Lab to make a difference. About a year ago, SPDC and NNPC Limited donated a mini ICT lab, called a junior lab, to Badamia Home. Now, this lab was equipped with tailored curriculum and trainers, all provided by the Offshore Lab. For these boys who were previously unfamiliar with computers, this space became a portal to boundless aspirations and accelerated development. About a year later, the boys' progression has been nothing short of remarkable. They started by grasping the fundamentals of computing and gradually delved into the intricacies of engineering design. Their journey of self-discovery and intellectual growth surpassed all expectations. Join us as we explore how Shell is transporting homeless street boys to the future. The topic again, Shell transforming homeless street boys to tech pioneers. And I've got guests with me on Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. My guest, Angela George Umo, is a licensed social worker and seasoned project manager, and she is the project manager, Badamia Home for Children. Angela, great to have you here.
Thank you, Dayo. Nice to be here.
Also, Emeka Obiwulu. He's got over 2 decades of project delivery and oil and gas experience across 4 continents. He's the founder and chief executive officer of the Offshore Lab. Emeka, great to have you here as well.
Thank you for having me on the program, Dayo.
Not forgetting, Timi Tralagba is a youth development enthusiast. He's also a social investment and sponsorship advisor with the SPDC. Timi, great to have you here also.
Thank you so much, Dayo. Good to be here.
So guys, Angela, Emeka, and Timi, it's awesome. I look forward to our conversation. Thank you for coming. So we'll start the conversation with a question for you, Angela, because critical for me to this conversation is Badamia Home and what's happening over there. What's the story of Badamia and how did it all come to be?
Badamia Home for Children was actually founded by a French lady, Madeleine Poirier. So, she came into town and we saw a lot of homeless children roaming the streets during school hours and sparked curiosity. Why are they on the streets? Why are they not in school? So when we dug deeper, we found out that not only are they not in school, they also do not have a home to return to. So we found that at odd hours, in the night, in the evenings, early mornings, you find them sleeping at the bus stops, on top of the overhead bridges, the markets. After the women have finished selling their wares, you find them sleeping under the table. So, and we just felt we could do something. So Badamia actually started off as a drop-in center. So we're somewhere around Bamiro and Muddy Flats then. So we started like, okay, we can do something. We can make a difference. Set up the home. The children walk in the morning. We give them breakfast, lunch, engage them in meaningful activities. They do their artworks. Then we teach them literacy. And then they go back to the streets and say 2-3 p.m. So it continued for close to a year, but we found out that we're not making meaningful progress. So when they come, we teach them how to read, and we cannot give them homeworks to go back with because they don't have anywhere to keep the books. So they come back and the books are gone and they are drenched. And the child comes back in the morning for classes, his eyes all swollen. Even you as a teacher know you can't teach this child because he's in no condition to learn. Sometimes they come with broken arms. I remember a case of the child I finished teaching in the day before. And by the time I saw him in the morning, his arms were swollen. And Gift, what happened to you? That's his name. Said he couldn't find a place to sleep, so they had to pay some people to sleep at the park. So because he didn't have the 50 naira then, I remember sometime 211, so they clubbed him because he couldn't pay. So he came in with the swollen arms. So we had these cases of children coming in, being molested by the older cult boys. I mean, the street is a very interesting place to be. So when they come in like that, we are not able to make progress. They come in tomorrow, you've taught something, the child does not have any homework, the child is in no mood to learn.
So at what point did you decide that you needed to expand a bit beyond what you were doing initially?
So it was when we saw we weren't making progress, the kind of progress that we really hoped to get. So we decided to establish a home in 2012.
Let's just backtrack a bit before 2012. When did it all start, Badamia?
Badamia started in 2009. Okay. So we were registered with the CAC, the Corporate Affairs Commission, in 2009, and then the National Planning Commission. And of course, we are also duly registered and recognized by the Ministry of Social Welfare.
So it took a while between then, because you said it was 2020, you decided to expand your
2012.
2012. Okay, so 2009 to 2012, about 3 years afterwards, you decided to actually have a home.
Yeah.
How did that go?
So, of course, it will be challenging it's a giant stride from what we started with dropping, baits, eat, and go back to the street. But now we have to build a team of people who have to live there, and they have to be trained social workers, of course. So, God willing, we got sponsors, we got donors and volunteers who helped us, and we set up a home, a proper shelter. And then this set us up on the real rehabilitation process.
It's one of the things that inspired expanding, what you were doing was you said in a paraphrase that you weren't having the desired, impact the lives of these children. Now, expanding your project and having a home, what immediate effect did that have on the boys?
I mean, you can imagine that even before we established the home, when they are living, Auntie, me, I no one go. We are all go sleep now. All this paper they give me, we are all keep them, So we knew there was no peace of mind. When in fact, I remember I came at 3 o'clock and we have to fish the children out to send them back out to the streets because they are hiding everywhere. They don't want to go back. The sun is scorching. There's no show of the next meal, and then you're asking me to go back to the streets. So when we moved into the home now, you could have that peace of mind. The children were reassured, and then we could start the real literacy classes and enrolling them into regular schools. And then we now started off a home.
Well, it sounds all good, and I'm glad you're smiling about this, really. But I mean, it's putting boys together. It's one thing to have them come and go, as challenging as that was, but then having all of them in one location, I mean, boys will be boys. There must have been challenges with that.
Yes. Well, and we have only boys in the home for obvious reasons. Now,
maybe not so obvious.
Okay,
why?
Okay. So let me cut the assumption. When we go to the streets to feed the children, familiarize with them, and pick them up from the street in the long run, we also find street-connected girls who live on the streets too. But you find that their needs are different. So, and somehow their experiences are not exactly the same.
Okay.
So, and the fact that they've been exposed to all sorts, it doesn't make sense to bring the girls and bring the boys and then put them in a confinement. But it's in the big picture. We're trusting God that when we have a bigger facility, we'll have the boys differently kept and the girls too kept in their own facility. So speaking about how challenging it is to work with boys, so that especially a majority of the children we work with are teenagers. growing into adolescence, that confusion of who I am, and sometimes you don't know who you are. You need all the patience in the world to work with street connected children, let alone street connected boys who have experienced all sorts. So the first shock you get is that they don't trust you. So you're showing all the love in the world. I mean, if my parents can brand me a witch and literally reject me, throw me out, who are you? Why should I trust you?
Yeah, there's something in this. Yeah, there's something I'm not seeing here, right?
So you're showing them love, you're providing, and they don't tell you who they are. Even something as simple as their real names, you don't get to know what they are. So I've enrolled a child in school, and I get to find out his real name 2 years later.
Wow.
Yeah, so we have to go back to the school to change because he didn't trust me. He felt if he told me, maybe if he told me his real story, why he's on the streets, maybe I'll also throw him out. So it took time to gain that trust, and then he begins to open up, and real healing begin to take place.
We'll come to the work we're doing with the healing and how that's impacting the boys in a moment. But somewhere along the line, along the story, thence came Offshore Lab. Emeka Abeul is here with Offshore. But before we talk about your impact and your work with Badamia Home, let's learn a bit about Offshore Lab. What is Offshore Lab all about? What do you guys do over there?
Thank you, Daya. I could listen to Angela the whole day, honestly. So at the Offshore Lab, we're an integrated service company focused on project delivery, capacity building, and technology. And by integrated services, what do we mean by that? We try to get an ecosystem of solutions that allow us to deliver projects end to end. When we did a little bit of our survey, looking at projects in the spaces of capacity prioritization and social investment and such like, we found that one of the key reasons why a lot of those projects didn't end up providing the value to the beneficiaries was the sort of silos that existed in. So the folks who did the front-end feasibility were sometimes different from the folks who did implementation and sometimes different from the folks who did the benefits actualization. And that's probably because they just have different skill sets or because that's how organizations are set up. So what did we decide to do? We decided we can actually get a vehicle with the in-house capacity, to move from the point where this is conceived down to the point where you're measuring the value through implementation, and that's what we set up. So from the implementation project delivery, which is the difficult bit of it, because you have to have domicile in-house, your architects, your engineers, your front-end people, the people who go out on site, to do the actual job. You have to have all of that and retain that capacity in-house to deliver on that certain level. And then, obviously, the consulting mindset to be able to engage people, meet people, do assessments, meet people where they are. And the very important element of it is that benefits actualization and sustainability. It's a huge thing for us because that's where we really measure where projects fail and succeed.
So I'm sure you do a lot of great work at Offshore Lab, but I'm hearing we're doing project management, we're providing solutions, and all that sounds really great. I'm sure you have clients who require your services, but nowhere there did I hear anything about catering to the needs of homeless boys or homeless children. So, but you're critical to the story that we're telling today at Offshore Lab because you helped set up the junior lab, which as also at the focus of our conversation. So here am I wondering, how did Offshore Lab connect with Badamia Home? What created that nexus? I don't know if it's Offshore Lab or was it SPDC. Timmy, is it the part where I come to you?
Maybe I think at this point you come to me really.
Okay, so how was that nexus created?
Well, it would help to provide some sort of background. We had done. It was not our first social investment, ICT education work with Offshore Lab. So there was the ICT center that we had done previously in Fupri, much larger setting, catering to a different demography of people. And then also when the planning stages for an ICT center at Bauchi in the northeast, when at the time we needed to visit Badamia. And it was just not Badamia. We visited a number of orphanages. We're a business that likes to connect with communities. We like to show that we're not busy people. We're not just about oil and gas, production numbers, barrels of oil and all. So we like to be open. We like to engage our communities. And one of the ways that we engage communities is that we specifically engage people who run orphanages and special need homes. So sometimes they come to us. When they don't come to us enough, we go to them. And it was during one of those visits that I was at, we were at Badamia. Of course, we had the initial interactions, tried to understand their needs. I was a bit surprised. You've been across my fence all the while. I didn't know you were doing such fantastic work here. And so we looked at the age range of the kids, the boys in the home, and we saw that one of the ways we could engage them was education, ICT, and it was fairly straightforward decision. We had ICT Fupri, we had ICT Bauchi in the works. And also, it helps to find a way to start something you can sustain. You can also interlink with well-established social investments. Right?
So just to be clear, there were similar projects ongoing in different parts at the time?
At larger scales.
Okay.
Yeah, so catering to people in tertiary institutions.
Okay. So back to Badamia.
Yes, so when we saw that they sent out benefits from a tech-type support or tech-type intervention, we then came to him, of course, to think through the idea together. What can we do here? At what scale can we do this? Can we start something that's beyond our initial support? It can keep somebody there, say another 1, 2, 3 years. And of course, we then co-created a solution that we deployed at Badamia. Of course, was, the Offshore Lab team were very much at the forefront of it.
All right. So, Emeka, how long did it take? You've been doing this for a while. From what Timmy just said, SPDC been collaborating with the Offshore Lab. You and your team over there doing similar projects, even on a larger scale elsewhere. For the Badamia project, the Badamia Home, how long did it take from concept to implementation? And did you have any particular challenges, providing solutions, as you say, for Badamia Home?
Challenges, relatively speaking, to get to the point where we had the infrastructure there, relatively speaking, I'd say it was actually very seamless. Seamless in the sense that with this particular client, we have close to an excellent relationship, so we almost call ourselves partners in development in that sense. So navigating spaces like that, co-creating solutions, understanding one another in that sense, we had no issues with that, and that really facilitates, the implementation of the project. And on the other end of it, very helpful bit was having an establishment that's already doing amazing work with running, operating, and maintaining a facility, and more amazing work with the level of engagement they had with the residents, the boys in Badamia there. So it made coming in there, implementing the project in sense of the infrastructure, the IT systems, etc., very seamless. And then the more difficult part of it, as we have thought at the time, was to then earn the trust of these young men and make them believe there was something in there, in what we're doing, for them to partake and participate in that training program rollout. And that's where we lean heavily on what had happened before we came in. That is the level of engagement home there. And compared to a number of things we had tried previously, it was, that's why I keep saying I have so much respect and regard for herself and her management. It was really, really fulfilling for us. It's been an experience and a half working with the boys. Their energy, their enthusiasm, their trust, it's and every day even up to today, we still get to learn more and more about them. There's the gentleman we always joke about, Destiny, we call my PA little man. The first time he came to the home, I was asking her a few questions, what happened when he came. The first question he was asking her was, are you going to sell me? And he reminds me so much of my second son, and that's the level of trust you need to move, how you need to move that needle. So he's coming there at that age with the distrust of a lot of people I've met have tried to traffic me. My elder brothers have these kind of stories. So do I trust this as another racket or another, give me this with one hand and take this away from me? So going in conscious of that and saying, I want to teach these boys technology. It's where they are, where you want to get them, really far off. So you really rely on what happened before you come in. So that made it quite easy. So from conceiving this, Timmy has a lot of bright ideas all the time. He's already asking, when are you going to this? When are you going to that? Like, calm down. So he had already mentioned Badamia for a while. And when I wasn't traveling, he started sending pictures and videos, like the impatient man he is. Yeah, start looking at this. And so we had a little bit of a runway where we had conversations, like he has like 10 things like that spinning at the same time. But when we got to the point, SPDC said, go, we had probably 4 weeks. And that 4 weeks was come in, feel the potholes of the boys, understand them where they are, get an idea of the space properly to see how we can optimize that space, and use it to set up that infrastructure. Go back, set up our fixed space design, and refine the different, because we have different curriculums we have for different trainings that we want to do for different age grades. So in that time, set up, okay, what are we going to do? Who's going to deliver this? When are we going to start with this? So go back, get the civil engineer to go break up the place, tear it down, raise it up again, get the IT infrastructure in, and by the end of the 4th week, we went online.
Great. Angela, Emeka describes a very interesting story. I'm sure you've got several stories to tell as far as Badamia is concerned, and I hope we can hear maybe a couple of the stories. But before I come back to you, Timmy, why Badamia? I mean, you talk about several projects that SPDC is handling with Offshore Lab, and I imagine the SPSI Youth Department is handling several projects with other teams as well in different parts of the country, the Niger-Delta inclusive. Why Badamia? Why did SPDC go with Badamia?
So it's many things. I think opportunity met readiness. So when we had the initial visits, there was first of all the shock that when you have these people doing really good work, putting in all the work, and just across our fence. And then, she also had the impression that we were very difficult people to connect with. Who should I talk to? Who do I meet? These people are difficult to talk to. Yeah, we're going to write letters, and all. But away from that, we looked at the home. We looked at the number of the boys in the home. We looked at their age ranges. We looked at the amount of work they had put in themselves. And we looked at the area that was sort of the need area. I recall when we engaged her, she was not asking for food for the boys. I of course knew from talking with her that it was not then easy to feed the boys, but she was not particular about that. She wanted to put something on the ground that would have sort of long-lasting impact. And of course, we saw that when you do social investments of that kind, when you want to do education, when you want to do tech, you need a lot of collaboration. You need partners who are willing to commit their own resources sometimes, who are willing to sometimes extend partnerships, who are willing to work with people that you bring there. Because it's not just enough that you call an offshore lab to come and do an intervention, and then you go the next day, they're calling you from the office to come and settle issues. We saw that they were going to be willing to nurse relationships. They were going to be willing to pull in partners if necessary and ensure that whatever it is we were putting there was going to be put to good work. And so when I came back to the office, did the reports, engaged my leaders, it was fairly easy to get the nod to say we could go ahead, to do this with Badamia.
Angela, talking about interesting stories that they have to tell. Emeka inferred or mentioned one just a while ago. What are the other? If you could mention one or two other really striking experiences you've had with the boys at the home.
Okay, just before I talk about the experience, listening to Timmy talk, it's interesting to note that I didn't have to write all the letters in the world, lobby all the people in the world to get SPDC do what they did in my home. Listening to him, I heard him say, we went to Offshore Lab. So you sit down there and someone comes to you and is trying to meet your need and goes around doing the collaboration. I'm sitting down here. For me, it's really big. So at this juncture, I just want to say it means a lot to me as an individual. It means a lot to the children that SPD thought of us and did all the collaboration to bring the mini lab to life. This is big. Thank you, SPDC. Thank you, Offshore Lab. Thank you, NNPC. So, and everybody who has made it possible. So back to the question. He talked about the needs that we had, that when he came in, he saw the need. Education was one of the big needs that we had in Badamia.
Yeah.
Imagine picking up children who have never been to school. Some have been to school. Sometimes they go to school this term, and the next 2 terms they are not in school. So I've had children who are 16, and I'm teaching them literacy, how to read. And I taught the child, would I call him a child, a teenager, how to read the letters, the sound, abacado. And then I said, this is letter G. A boy of 16 the next day, and I wrote all the letters on the board, and I said, show me letter G. So auntie, how? How that one will be?
Oh.
How? What does letter G look like? I say it's right on the board. I taught you yesterday. So you find children who are 13, 12, they can't read. Education is an illusion to them. So the ICT lab filled that gap for me. I was looking for a way and a means to give the children a lease on life, to help them break this divide that they've always felt inferior, timid, shy. On the streets, when we go to feed them and connect with them, you hear people literally say, born away, we'll leave this born away. So they've actually grown up believing they are born away.
But your background, I couldn't help but note when you were talking just now, you have a background in education, or you were a teacher, trained or something like that?
Okay, so I'm trained in a lot of things. I'm trained as a literacy teacher. I'm trained with Montessori. I can teach the children how to read within 3 months.
Okay.
So I do the teaching before I enroll them into regular school.
Okay, so let's talk about that as well. Before SPDC came knocking with Offshore, what was the routine usually like for your boys?
Okay, so usually when they come into the home, 3 months, I enroll them. When I'm sure they're able to read, they're enrolled into regular school. So every child in the home is in school, is in regular school.
Okay.
Ranging from the primary, secondary, tertiary. So when they come back home in the afternoon, they just do their tutorials, they do their homework, and then they go and sleep, and then wait until 5 o'clock when we'll have our visiting psychologists to do the counseling sessions. And the days we don't have, they just sleep. So the routine in the home is just the staff, myself, teach the children, they go to school, come back. So we didn't have this privilege of having people working and engage them every other day, something they are looking up to. So that's what the mini lab did for us.
So one day, there you were, attending to your boys, doing what you can to make a difference, minding your business.
Minding my business.
and then Timmy and Co came knocking on the door. And then what happened?
Like I said, initially.
From the day they first came knocking, what happened? What was your reaction? How did you process? How did you deal with it?
So initially when they came knocking and were asking of needs and all that, I didn't take them seriously because I've had many occasions where people walk in and make all the promises and nothing good really comes out. So when he came talking, to be honest, he didn't make any promises. So maybe that's why I didn't have my hopes high. But the next time he calls me, okay, I'm sending somebody there. Okay, all right, let's just see how it goes. To be honest with you, that was how I felt about it. Let's just see how it goes.
Okay.
And then it started unfolding. Gradually, I came and see them tear down my classroom. What's going on here? And within the space of 1 month, my classroom was born again.
Well, let me give you notice they're going to tear down the classroom.
Good question.
I didn't know it was going to be that serious. I said, yeah, you wanted to paint this place, you wanted to clean up and put, so why are you breaking my so you break my tiles? Why? I said, okay, I just want to assume they'll have something better to So indeed they had something better. So within a very short space of time, my classroom was transformed into an ICT lab. And I must commend Offshore Lab. You need to come and see the designs on the wall. You need to come and when you walk into the mini lab, you just feel like, oh my God. So I have a lot of people going there to take pictures each time they come. And I can't wait to take you to my mini lab when you visit the homes.
And your boys, how have they responded to this? How have they taken it?
So the children are not just excited. If there was a better word to describe how happy they are, if I do not lock that lab, those children will sleep in the lab, and I mean every word.
I believe you.
If they would, and so because I'm careful, they are passionate, they're very excited to have the opportunity. Because before they came in, I had already enrolled 2 of them, though they are in secondary school, because I just want them to be able to have tech skills so that they can compete favorably with regular children. So we're going to do the MS Word, the Excel, the what's it called? So having to have that and something even better in the home, I didn't have to pay anybody. Nobody goes anywhere again. So all that going out ended. So they were now waiting for 3 o'clock when the tutors from Offshore Lab will.
And didn't you think that was overreaching at any point? I mean, you describe a teenager who could not identify the letter G.
Yeah.
But how do you as well go from that to thinking, I want them to learn computers, I want them to learn programming, coding? I mean, seriously, that's a very wide
So you
goal.
see, I've had children who have been with me for 9 years now, 11 years, 12 years. So over time, within the space of 1 year, you're able to read, you're in school, and they're doing fantastically well academically. So because I've seen them blossom, I want to push them. I want to see them. I want to see them take over the world. I want to see them compete like they've never lived on the street, like they've never. So that was why I kept encouraging them to go for the ICT trainings, opening that opportunity for them. So because a few of them, like just 2, Richard and Precious, had that exposure. The other boys too. I mean, when I have documents to type, Richard, come and type, and Richard has to sit on my table in my office, and the other children are looking at me. They want to have that privilege. And then Precious, come and type this document for me. They are looking at my laptop. So now they have the opportunity to do it themselves. Richard is no longer the big boy. Whatever Richard can do, we can do ourselves.
This is probably school.
Do you get? So the ICT lab was an opportunity for them to be like Richard, to get into my office and have to use my system. So they jumped at the offer. I was amazed. And here again, I'm still amazed at how Offshore Lab could connect with these boys. The fact that they are excited to jump on the computer does not mean that they do not have fears and reservation. They do not have fears that if I touch this thing now, will he not start shouting, pain, or something?
Won't explode.
He won't explode. They had those fears. But the tutors were able to allay those fears. And within a very short span of time, my boys could not only use the computer, they could do engineering designs.
Okay, I want to hear about what they can do now. I think I have to go to Emeka for that. So Emeka, you came there. You must have, I think, you're the experts. You provided solutions. Maybe did some kind of recon to determine what the needs of the boys are. What were your conclusions? I mean, once again, dealing with boys, so some of them have started to learn to read. Some of them have just learned to read a while back. There was a wide gap, as you yourself described a while ago, between where they were and possibly what you were thinking. What were you thinking? What did you think their needs were? And how did I help you in designing the programs, the courses from the age that time? And what exactly were these programs and courses?
Okay, I looked at the door when you said you're the expert.
Just to be sure.
Think of that.
Expert in what?
Exactly. So really, in that sense, we really have to work as a team. So there's a lot I don't know about the boys. Angela will know about them. There's a lot I don't know about social investment. Timmy will know. So when we decide this is where we want to invest in, have an intervention, that collaboration becomes very useful. But when it comes to the individual, one of the things that it's very clear to us, like you asked the question alluding to that, is kids are geniuses, absolutely. And the genius, we believe, drops as you get older. You conform more, you lose a lot of this. And that's why a kid can learn 5 languages and without going into a structured training.
Yeah.
So when you realize that, you become less skeptical about what you put across to them. And you also find out, in the sense of the popular C's of competence, character, capacity, trying to develop that, what you find is when you deal with that disadvantaged demographic and you're able to turn the disadvantage into an edge, that courage they embrace makes almost anything possible for them. So with that knowledge going in and saying, these guys can do just about whatever they want to do. What we're trying to move is the psychological makeup, not their capacity at all. Because we believe if we put this curriculum in front of them and they trust it, they'll eat it completely. And we have that trust, So going in and saying, this is where they are and where they're, it's that level of trust you spoke about. You have to have the people who have that empathy. Teaching requires a lot of skill, particularly with people who have face the sharp ends of life and reality. So you need people who can coerce and bring out that individual, create that link, create that trust, listen, be empathetic, and get these kids to express themselves. If you don't have that, you're already losing that. So we have to look at the people who have that right skill set. We have to look at the people who combine that well, like Angela will tell you, with also being firm when they need to be firm, and going there. And once you bring that out and these kids are on a journey, the 1 year through for us is a checkpoint, and a lot of people call it a success, and we don't regard it as that at all just yet. We have a roadmap where these kids become successful is at the time their skills become marketable.
Wow.
Absolutely, yes. I saw that from on your face.
Speaking of skills, what skills exactly? You used the word curriculum a while ago.
Yeah.
What is the curriculum, and what skills are you giving them with that curriculum?
Okay. So for the home, right, the focus is engineering design for some reasons, right? Particularly because of what obtains in the environment there, right? So with interventions like this, we look at a number of things, right? Timmy talked about ensuring that when you come back, you've actually increased the capacity of this individual. And capitalism, the market doesn't lie. If these guys have value, commerce will find them. One of the, you talk about all of the foreign direct investments coming into startups and technology, but one of the founders' greatest risk is they don't have resources. A lot of the resources live in the country. If you look at the banks, a lot of the apps are failing. You can make there's a big scarcity of it. And then we have this massive army of young people, and you look at that number, it's scary. 1 out of every 3 kids is out of school. Absolutely. You're looking at 86% of the country live in extreme poverty. And then you go, isn't the strategy now sensible to take advantage of this huge population that we have, as you talk about expanding the tax net, expanding the talent net, going to these remote places, and that 1 out of 3, 86% of them live in rural areas. So if you then go to those remote areas and the disadvantaged places, people who aren't typically in conversations like this, and bring them into that net, it's directly proportional to the wealth of nation of people. So if you actually get that talent built, which is what we were thinking of then now, say, okay, let's identify across 774 local governments one area at the minimum, where we can build capacity and make individuals grow to the point of national relevance or things that are of national importance to us. So coming to Badamia and saying, this is the first test run of this. If we can do this, we can demonstrate that it's possible.
So it's been about a year, or just over a year, since the intervention of Badamia. What is I know you said a while ago that you don't consider it to be a success level yet until the skills are marketable, but what is their skill set, or what's their skill level now?
Their skill level now frightens me a bit because they actually learned it a lot quicker than we thought they will, really. And this is me who typically wouldn't underestimate the capacity of a kid. And I was saying when we went the last time, that courage of a gentleman saying to me, I should take a seat next to him and then let's design object by object. So there is not just that understanding of all of the basics of design, it's integrated now with the courage, the audacity and the confidence that they believe they can design just about anything. And that's really important, particularly for the next phase. It's one thing to typically know how to, the rudimentary of design and stuff. So this second year, the intention is to actually get them working in project environments, actually delivering what a typical project will be. So that fits into that journey of making them get to the point where a company will feel comfortable enough to go to Richard and say, do the shop floor drawings for me for the C fastening plates. That's the point where you go, right.
I can't help but ask this also. So the lab's been set up.
Mm-hmm.
They have these awesome computers and programs and all of that there. I'm sure Esther is a capable Montessori teacher and her team over there as well. But who takes them through these courses? Who takes them through the programs?
So, good question. That idea of ensuring we have our destiny in our hands, of having that ecosystem of solutions in-house, it means that we have to ensure that as part of the Offshore Lab, we have people who can train and deliver on this. And we don't just have this idea and outsource it. So we have people who now have more loyalty to Angela than myself, who have been taking care of all of this training.
Provided by Offshore?
Yeah, yes, provided by, and they work as part of our team. I don't know, some of them. Funny enough, Timmy was doing this scholarship thing for undergraduates.
Yes, undergraduates.
And sometimes when we have meetings at the office, someone goes like, is that Timmy Chow? 3 years ago, he was my supervisor from SPD when I had my Shell contract, my Shell scholarship and stuff like that. So I've had 3 people who, serendipitously know him, and know he was doing this for them. That linkage. So we have in-house the trainers, we build the curriculum. So thinking about the spread that we talked about, we understand that in different areas, there are going to be different demands. Timmy talked about the Bauchi ICT Center, which is significantly larger than this. So moving away from that, donation or palliative, this has gone there. We make this investment, but what this area we're very keen on is find a way of using this ICT center, for instance, as what we'll use to address agrotechnology and deforestation in the area. So even though it's an ICT center, it's been built with a purpose now. So we have a drip irrigation system from the tank and the borehole that's been donated outside the building, that these guys have already started working on control systems, and we want to build partnerships, with agrotech companies that will make that ICT center sustainable, and will make it a platform for testing new technologies, propagating new technologies, and there's nothing like harnessing the energy of the youth to do that. So for different areas, it's clear to us there are different demands in those areas. So understand what is profitable, practical in that area, and then that's what defines what curriculum that we actually use for our training.
Now, speaking of energy, SPDC is all about energy, about powering lives. And back to you, Timmy. It's been just over a year since the intervention at Badamia. I saw a video recently that was commemorated somewhat. There was a visit by SPDC. You were there. Some of the leadership at SPDC were there as well. What is the SPDC's assessment of the intervention at Badamia just over a year afterwards?
Fantastic, amazing. I was there. I mean, and just to demonstrate what this means to us, I was not there alone. I was there with I think I was laughing that day. I was there with I went with my manager. She had a manager. He had his manager. So we had the director, SPDC, as head of corporate relations, Nigeria, Mr. Iko. He was there, and he's very big on things like this, very big on things like development. It was not difficult to convince him this was working. He saw it firsthand. A few of the kids taught him a few things. They taught him a few things that day. I think everybody was impressed. Everybody thinks that it's been good value for money. We're not going to beat our chest and say we've come to the end of the road, like he says. We're always going to go back and see what can we improve, what can we do better. If we're going to do this somewhere else, where can we do it better? But it looks like the business is happy with what we've received as what we've seen as the outcome of the visits that we did there 13 months ago, and then the takeoff of training at some point last year.
All right, Esther, it's been over a year once again. I asked about the routine of the boys earlier before this intervention by SPDC working with Offshore Lab. What is the routine of the boys like these days? So I imagine they go to school, and then when they're back from school, what happens with them?
So when they're back from school, to quickly tidy up their homeworks, and then they run to the lab to start practicing. So they practice up until 5, sometimes 6, depending on the availability of power. Then they retire and start preparing for their dinner. So I would like to say that they are more meaningfully engaged ever since we have the ICT lab established in our home. So the children they're not like when they come out of school, they play all the time. Our facility is not so big, so we do not allow them to engage in the football and a lot aside from the table tennis. So they used to be bored then, but now the ICT lab has replaced the boredom with being meaningfully engaged. That's one of the things the lab did for me. And another thing it did for me is that it helped to build their confidence. It helps them now to believe in themselves. If Richard can do it, I can. Okay? So they begin to believe in themselves.
Can you describe a particular instance, maybe one of your boys in particular, what he was like, one that really strikes you? I'm sure they all strike you, but one that really stands out somewhat. Life before the junior lab and then afterwards.
Okay, one that really stood out for me was Edidion. Okay. When the second time he came, he didn't see Edidion. Edidion was actually rejected by his father. His father is alive, but ever since he moved, I picked him from the street in 2018. Up until now, his father refused to have anything to do with him. So his father says he's a witch, and that ever since he came, he picked, it looks like they had the child outside wedlock, something went wrong, the mother passed, and then ever since he picked the child, things have gone from bad to worse for him. So he decides the boy is responsible for his misfortunes and decided he doesn't want to have anything to do with the boy. But guess what? When the lab was established, Edidion was the first to pick up. Caleb walked up to me. He said, because I kept having concerns about continuity, that when Offshore Lab and their tutors stop coming, what happens to the younger generation of the children in the home? So Caleb, I kept having that discussion with Caleb, and one day he walks up, he's soft-spoken, and knocks on my office door, saying, "Ma, I have found the next tutor." I say, "Who is that?" He says, "It's right here in your home." That Edidion can design anything. He can do anything on the system. That made me so happy, because this is the same Edidion who has been branded and labeled the witch. And then since 2018 up until now, I've been calling the dad because I have his number. We do family tracing. So before any child starts living in the home, we trace the last place the child called home, whether it's an uncle, whether it's whoever. just so we know that we confirm the story. So we had his number. I've gone there to see him. So he refused to have anything to do with this child. But Gideon came out and he became so amazing with the system. So I called him and I was having conversations. So you see now that you're not a witch. Witches wouldn't do what you're doing with the system. And don't worry, keep at it. The world, you'll be announced and your father will come looking for you and see. So you see, these are some of the stories that, and we have children who have never, some of them have never touched a laptop. They've never believed they can see a laptop. But here you are challenging a maker, come on, let's design anything, I'll beat you to it.
This all sounds...
So you just respected yourself.
I didn't think of that challenge at all.
You said to maintain your championship. Timmy, sustainability, to the best of our knowledge, is key, and it's somewhat at the heart of whatever SPDC does as well with our JV partners, of course. What are the plans as far as sustaining this is concerned from the SPDC perspective?
Yeah, so I think, like I mentioned earlier, we're usually very careful about jumping into things. When at first we visited, she had shared the key need areas, wanted to do something in education, and my mind was all over the place. I was thinking, I was doing the numbers. Do we want to go in there every year and put money and say put kids in school? That didn't look like it was going to work, right? And so we came down to tech. And sometimes really, when you struggle in social investment type work, in development type work, sometimes you can go ahead and you can think about all of the solutions and try to solve all of the problems. Try to figure out sustainability. Some other times you can just work with somebody who people who do sustainable things. And so it made sense to get involved. To work it with Offshore Lab. And of course, from the initial conversations, we ran the numbers. We didn't just want to donate computers, refurbish the ICT lab, and then we're well on our way. So we worked the numbers. What would it cost to have someone sit here for another 1 year? What would it have cost to have someone sit here for another 2 years? Very kind guy. He says if you provide the resources for someone to stay here 1 year, 12 months to 18 months, 24 months, he says I'll find partners who will keep this place running long after you have left. The other thing again I see is you look at the appetite of the business, you look at the business leaders, and you look at the sort of impact that they are having. I'm not sure that we are going to be running away anytime. No, I'm not but we are always going to keep going there. Right? We're always going to keep checking on the boys, looking at their progress and seeing what can we do to make this continue to work. He also that's not just going to be a problem for us. He's restless about it, chatting me at others about keeping that place running, exchanging ideas. I'm very sure that a few years down the line, or years down the line, there's always going to be that mini ICT lab at Badamia. Unless, of course, Madam Angela locks into purchases. She's not going to do that.
Sustainability thing is so important.
Of course, and briefly, what's your plan for the boys? It's been over a year now. What's your plan for the boys?
So the immediate plan, which is this phase 2, is to have a rollout of the next 12 months. And the curriculum is really specific to providing them a lot of experience in that sense. So we have real projects that have been executed previously that we have turned into simulated projects for every quarter, right? So for instance, if you look at something like the recent mooring line change out of Bonga, and this was delivered by these contractors, we get all of those designs, build out a training program over that period, and get these kids to start working on that like the project was live. So we tune them into working under those conditions. Then we give them a lot of
practical experience through the field visits, through going to, and we're already speaking to companies where they can go and do those field visits. And there is a company in Aba at the moment where in the next 3 months, we will get them to design components that they will actually go there and fabricate. That place got laid machines, foundries, etc. They start to understand the reality between design and actual production.
Is Angela just hearing this for the first time?
Oh, she's not. she actually asked me, she's that way. So she actually asked me, tell me, are you this? I told her, we're working on, and her very good friend Caleb, I showed her, like, this is what's delaying here and this is what we're building. So once we start that, in that sense, she obviously gets privy to all of that information. But that second year, that 12-month period, is to get them industry ready, really. Oh. And we want to have them at that position, really, that a drawing office manager from a company can come in and give either of them with full confidence do this. And if you think about it practically, imagine those boys were at that level, right? Those companies, a lot of them will feel a whole lot better coming to get those bits of work packs done at subsidized rates instead of giving donations for them when they know that these boys can do it. Mm-hmm. So that job or that task is then up to us. Let's get them to this level and then get these people in. And when everyone came in from Shell, there was no single person that walked away there without being totally blown away. Because that just demonstrates to you that these guys can do it. And we talked about Ojo today, Joy Emmanuel, incredible. We talk about boys that really blew you away. And she was asking, how did you know this about him? And when you observe them, Ojo is very introspective, and he had this depth to him, that was a little bit unsettling. I really like the fact that there was this contrast to his personality and what he did, which was he was the most adventurous with design. So he picked up a phone, he looked at a flower pot, and he starts designing it. And it's, when you're not looking and doing that. And I really love that because that's the mental journey you want. So she wasn't around on the day when I was watching him do this. And I called Caleb, the guy who was originally training them, like, what's up with this? I really like this guy. And there's something about his, I just want to. And then he told me the young man's story. And that just reinforced all of what I was thinking. And at the point he was 5, by the point he was 5, he was already fending for his mother who was mentally challenged on the streets. So between 4 and 5, he was going in, cleaning windscreen, getting money, he'll buy bread, he'll run back to his mom. And at that age of 5, as we were even talking about it this morning, the government relocated a lot of the mentally challenged roaming people, and he lost contact with his mom. And that was it. So imagine where he took the manhood responsibility from that tender age and then got to this point and got completely, separated from his mom. And that's where Angela and some of the soldiers came in. And he's been at the home since then for that past 5 years. So she even said that this morning, that he keeps saying, where he'll see meaning is if he ever finds his mom again. And if he sees her, he's just going to go with her. So that depth, you're looking at that. When you know that story and you understand that and you see that expression in what they're doing, you're able to connect more. You meet them where they are and you're able to connect and do a lot more with them in that sense, So there's just that human thing between each and every one of these individuals. And when you turn those disadvantages as they seem at the time into edges for them, these guys, they can do just about anything. They can just...
Now, Angela, having followed the story of your boys from inception, you've been with them from the very beginning till now. What do you feel? How do you feel about the story thus far? And what are your thoughts about what the future portends for Badamia Home, for your boys, and for your project?
I just... Listening to Emeka right now makes me hopeful. Yeah, I'm very hopeful that already as it is, I'm very happy to see the difference and that the children are in what they can do with the system. But I never thought in the line that Emeka just talked about now, having companies come to pick them up and power them. And picture a child who was born on the street by a mentally challenged mother, never ever lived under a roof. Never lived under a roof, never leave, never having been properly taken care of, coming into a home, and within a short time, the person is a tech pioneer. And then it's not doesn't just end there. And then I'm hopeful that through this one boy, or Joe, for instance, the home won't need. I won't even need any fundraising effort, because if he's meaningfully engaged and he gets jobs, I mean, the business of fundraising is over. So you see, so this is. I'm very hopeful that with what we have done so far, these children are going to start making money for themselves and for the home. And it's going to be a vicious circle. So a whole lot of street children are going to benefit from this. So it's not just about those who have been rescued, because I still go to the street. My team will still go and then feed the children, connect with them. We don't just go and pick the children off the street. We work with them. We can work with them for a period of 3 months, 6 months. Now, this is to ascertain those who are really willing to accept change, because a whole lot of children on the street are hooked on substance and they're really not ready for change. So while we're on the streets, we're feeding them, we're playing games with them, we're discussing with them. We just want to know who they are. Do you understand? Yeah. And those who are willing to change. So when we pick them up, we come back and then start the rehabilitation process. So from time to time, we go with people like Ojo, Christian, and all of them, so that they'll see the rehabilitated version, and then they begin to dream of what they can be. When I'm going to teach about substance abuse on the streets, I don't even do the teaching. I have a sober child in the home come out and teach other street children. And so imagine Ojo being made and who can fend for himself, following me to the streets to teach the other street children what they. But this is possibility. This is possibility and nothing short.
We have to wrap this up now. And just a while ago, I know you feel with lots of emotions right now. Angela, I heard your voice break a while ago. Apologies for that. I didn't intend to make you feel so emotional, but I sense that you might have a few things you want to say to SPDC, Offshore Lab, your partners in making all of this a reality. If you have anything you'd like to say as we wrap it up.
Yes, I just want to say thank you very much to SPDC and to the Offshore Lab and every individual or organization that made this happen. Thank you for ensuring that my children can reach their potentials and become the best version that they can ever be. And I also want to use this opportunity to ask that other well-meaning individuals and organizations partner with us. We can achieve more. The society can be more beautiful. So thank you, Offshore Lab. Thank you, NNPC. Giselle, thank you. And thank you, Dio, too.
Sure. Why not? It's good to be mentioned. And that's it. That's a wrap on this edition of Canvas, the Niger-Delta Roundtable. We've discussed how Shell is taking street boys, homeless boys to the future. There are several such initiatives, as Timmy mentioned a while ago. Even bigger, however, we focused on what Shell and Offshore have been doing with the Badamia Home for homeless boys. Many thanks for joining us. Thanks to my guest, Angela, as a project manager with Badamia Home. Angela, it's been good having you here, telling your story. And thanks to Timmy as well, and your team, the SPSRT department of SPDC. Thank you for the great job you're doing.
Thanks, Tyler.
And thanks to Mecca as well, who is providing solutions with his team at the Offshore Lab. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Tyler.
And I'm Adid Dali Lushakin. To wrap on today's edition of Canvas in Niger-Delta Roundtable, has been brought to you by the operator of the NNPC SPDC Total Energies Active Joint Venture, the Shell Petroleum Development Company of Nigeria Limited. And watch out for another edition coming your way as we discuss more matters contributing to the growth and development of our dear Niger-Delta region. Thank you.